Hi, it's Miss Gator. I hope you all keeping safe and well. The boy at the back of the class is your pre-reading for John Hanson, so we thought it'd be quite nice if we read the first chapter with you guys. So the first chapter, I haven't read this book either, so I'm really looking forward to it. The first chapter is called The Empty Chair. There used to be an empty chair at the back of my classroom. It wasn't a special chair, it was just empty because there was no one sitting in it. But one day, just 3 weeks after school started, the most exciting thing that could ever happen to anyone happened to me and my 3 best friends, and it all began with that chair. Usually, the best thing about starting a brand new term is that you get extra pocket money to buy new stationery with. Every year, on the last Sunday of the summer holidays, my mum takes me on an extra special adventure to hunt down my stationery set for the new school year. Sometimes I get so excited that my feet feel jumpy inside, and I don't know which shop I want to go to first. There aren't many nice stationery shops where I live. They only ever have boring dinosaur sets for boys and princess sets for girls. So Mum takes me on the bus and the train into the city, where there are whole streets of shops, even big department stores that look like tall blocks of flats from the outside. Last year I found a space-themed set with pictures of an astronaut floating past the moon. It was on sale too, so I bought a pencil case, a math set, rubbers and a long ruler, and still nearly had £1 left over. The ruler was one of my favourite stationery pieces because the astronaut floats across it in water mixed with silver stars. I play with it so much that the astronaut got stuck to one side and couldn't be bothered to move. But it wasn't my fault. Mr. Thompson, our teacher last year, had such a boring voice that my hands needed something to do. That's why it's so important that you have fun stationery to play with in class, because you never know when you'll need it to stop you from falling asleep or having something to stop you being in detention. This year I bought a Tintin and Snowy set. I love Tintin, even though he's only a character in a comic book and isn't real. I want to be just like him when I grow up. I think being a reporter and getting to solve mysteries and go on adventures must be the best job in the world. My mum and dad used to buy me brand new Tintin comics for my birthdays, and Mum saves up all the comics her libraries were about to throw away because they were too old and ripped, and gives them to me. So now I've got my own collection. I've read them all at least 50 times, but I'll have to think about another pet to travel with because I'm allergic to dogs. I don't think cats and hamsters or even trained mice could be half as useful as Tintin's dog Snowy. And even though I thought about it for at least a year now, I still haven't come up with anything. Because the Tintin stationery was a lot more expensive than the astronaut one, and it wasn't on sale, I could only buy a pencil case, a small ruler and 2 rubbers. I had to think about it for a very long time, but in the end I decided spending all my pocket money in one go was worth it. Not just because everything had Tintin on it, but because if you press a button on the pencil case, Snowy barks and Captain Haddock's voice cries out, "Blistering barnacles!" I've even been told off for pressing it in the middle of a maths class this year. But if you can't press a barking dog button in the maths classroom, then I don't see the point in it. I don't like maths. Simple maths is fine, but this year we're learning about long division and square numbers and all sorts of things my brain doesn't like doing. Sometimes I ask for help, but it's embarrassing to be putting my hand up too many times to ask the same question. I'm lucky because Tom and Josie and Michael always help me with things I get stuck with. They're my best friends and we do everything together. Tom's got short spiky hair and a side smile, and big Adam's apple that looks like a ping pong ball got stuck in his throat. He's the smallest in our group, but he's also the funniest. He only joined our class last year after his parents moved here from America, but we became friends instantly. He has 3 older brothers who all tease and bully him. Not seriously, only for a joke. But I think they might steal his food, which is why he's so skinny and always super hungry. I once saw him eat a whole pizza with extra toppings and a double cheeseburger for lunch and still wasn't full up. So I hide my snacks and chocolate bars from him when I can. Josie has large brown eyes and at least 500,000 freckles across her face. She's tall and gangly and always chewing on her hair. She's the fastest girl in our year and can kick a football past any goalie from the other side of the pitch. She's the coolest person I know, and I've known her since we were 3. Our mums say we became instant friends the first day we started nursery, so we decided they should become friends too. I don't really remember much about myself at that age, but Josie is in all my school memories. We even got our first detention together last year because of a hamster called Herbert. Josie had heard from one of the upper school bullies that they were going to flush our class hamster Herbert down the toilet at home time. Josie told me and we decided to go on a hamster rescue mission. We hid Herbert in my rucksack before home time and took him straight to my house. But of course, Mum found out and made me take him back the very next day. I tried to explain to boring Mr. Thompson what had happened, but he wouldn't listen and gave me detention. And even though she didn't have to, Josie stood up for me and said she helped steal Herbert too, just so we could have detention together. You know a friend's a best friend when they're willing to sit in detention with you. Michael has the neatest, puffiest afro out of all of the boys in our year. Most people think he's weird, but not us. His glasses are always broken and his shoelaces have never been done upright, so he's always tripping or bumping into things when he walks. But we're all so used to it, we don't even notice. He's mostly quiet when he says something. Grown-ups He's mostly quiet, but when he does say something, grown-ups usually look impressed and say, "It's ingenious," or "insightful," or use strange words beginning with "in." I don't know what they mean, but I guess they mean he's clever. Grown-ups always like coming up with long words for simple things. Michael gets made fun of a lot because he can't run fast or kick a ball in a straight line, but he doesn't care. I wouldn't either if I was as rich as him. His dad is a professor and his mum is a lawyer, and they're always busy. They buy him all the latest gadgets and books and the coolest new games. When we went to his house last year for his birthday party, we saw his room for the first time. It looked like the inside of a toy store. I think it must be easier not to care what people think when you've got that many toys in your life. Josie and Michael are always competing with each other to who can get the most gold stars and A's in class. Michael was the best at history and Josie is the best at maths, but I'm better at reading and spelling than the both of them, especially Josie. She hates reading and never ever reads anything outside of class. She says she doesn't have an imagination, so there's no point in reading books. I find that strange, because how can anyone not have an imagination? I think she must have had one when she was younger, but then it was knocked out of her when she fell off her bike last summer. Mum says people without imaginations are dead inside. I don't think Josie is dead anywhere. She talks too much. Having 3 best friends can make school seem like the best place to be, and even on the most boring day. Although this year school has become a lot more fun, and that's because of our new teacher, Mrs. Khan. Mrs. Khan has extra bouncy hair and always smells of strawberry jam, which is much better than the smelling of old socks like Mr. Thompson used to do. She's new to the school and extra clever, much cleverer than Mr. Thompson ever was. And she gives us prizes on Friday when we've all been good. No other teacher in our year does that. Mrs. Khan lets us do all sorts of interesting things that we have not done before. In the first week of school, she helped us make musical instruments out of things we'd found in the school recycling bin, and in the second week she brought in a brand new comic book to read to us that wasn't even in the school library yet. Then, in the third week, something that was so surprising and made everyone so curious that even Mrs. Khan couldn't make us focus in our lessons, and it all began with the empty chair. It was on the 3rd Tuesday after school had started, and Mrs. Khan was taking the register. She was just about to call my name, and there was a loud knock at the door. Usually when there's a knock at the door, it's just someone from another class bringing in a note, so no one really pays attention. But this time, it was Miss Sanders, the head. Mrs. Sanders always wears her hair in exactly the same way and peers over her glasses when she talks to anyone. Everyone is scared of her because when she gives attention, she doesn't make you sit in a room. She makes you memorise long words from the dictionary and doesn't let you leave until you've learnt them all off by heart, the meaning and the spelling. I've even heard that the lower graders get stuck in detention for hours because they have to learn the words that were as long as the page. So when we saw that it was Mrs. Sanders at the door, we fell silent. She looked very suspicious as she walked up to Mrs. Khan, and we all whispered and nodded for a few seconds. Then she suddenly turned round, peering over the glasses at us, pointed at an empty chair at the back of the class. All of us turned round to have a look at the empty chair. This is the chair. You can see it. As I said, it was a pretty ordinary chair, and it was empty because a girl called Dina left our class at the end of last summer to move to Wales. No one really missed her, except her best friend Clarissa. Dina had been a bit of a show-off and was always talking about how many presents her parents got her every week, and how many pairs of trainers she had, and all sorts of other things that no one really cared about. She liked to sit at the back of the class because then she and Clarissa could pretend to be doing lessons, when all they were really doing was drawing pictures of their favourite pop stars and giggling about someone they didn't like. Someone could have taken that seat, but no one really wanted to sit next to Clarissa. That's why this chair has stayed empty. After whispering for a few more seconds with Mrs. Khan, Mrs. Sanders left the classroom. We expected Mrs. Khan to say something, but she seemed to be waiting. So we waited too. It was all very serious and exciting. But before we could start guessing about what was going to happen, Mrs. Sanders came back. And this time, she wasn't alone. Standing behind her was a boy none of us had seen before. He had short dark hair and large eyes that hardly blinked and smooth pale skin. "Everyone," said Mrs. Khan, as the boy went and stood next to her, "this is Ahmed, and he'll be joining our class from today. He's just moved to London and is new to the school, so I hope you'll all do your very best to make him feel welcome." We all watched in silence as Miss Sanders led him to the empty chair. I feel sorry for him because I knew he wouldn't like sitting next to Clarissa very much. She still missed Dina, and everyone knew she hated boys. She says they're stupid and they smell. I think it must be one of the worst things in the world to be new to a place and have to sit with people you don't know, especially people that stare and scowl at you like Clarissa was doing. I made a secret promise to myself right there and then that I'd be friends with the new boy. I happened to have some lemon sherbets in my bag, and this morning I thought I would try and give him one at break time. And I would ask Josie and Tom and Michael if they would like to be his friends too. After all, having 4 new friends would be much better than having none, especially for a boy who looked as scared and as sad as the new one who is now sitting at the back of our class. Oh, chapter 1 done. Okay, happy reading!